The floodwaters throughout the Midwest have receded, leaving behind a trail of heavy mud, and that's a major problem for farmers.
Gordon, the floods have also been devastating for homes and families in several states. Heather Sells has this look at the damage from the heavy rains and high waters.
A week after the flooding started, the waters are still standing in many places, like in this neighborhood in northern Illinois. Farmers say it's still too wet to plant and expect lower yields when they do. And families everywhere are dealing with precious memories turned to trash.
I raised my daughters in this house and my grandkids. You know, they've been coming over since they were little.
Since they were born.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Pretty heartbreaking. Like, first load I picked up was a wedding dress, and you know, you see the families up crying, so it's pretty hard.
The floods have also proved dangerous. In Michigan, fast rising waters turned into rapids, almost sweeping away this couple in their canoe. Along the Mississippi, waters are still rising, and flood warnings extend up and down the river from Wisconsin to Louisiana. They're catching drivers off guard.
It was over my seat because I was sitting crisscross in my seat and my behind started getting wet.
In Indiana, the Wabash River is threatening to breach levees.
We've been sandbagging all morning.
And in the Dakotas, a mix of snow and warm temperatures could bring the Red River to near record levels.
What's going to be happening in the Dakotas and Minnesota this weekend is going to be unbelievable. We still have over a foot of snow in some areas. Temperatures will be heading well into the 70s this weekend, and that snow will be rapidly melting.
And believe it or not, sequestration budget cuts may put some communities in danger of flooding at an even greater risk. The government will soon shut down more than 100 gauges that warn of imminent flooding. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well, budget cuts are also behind the FAA's saying that the reason for the delays in air travel this week. Lee Webb has that story from the CBN newsroom. Lee?
Gordon, Congress is trying to end the air traffic controller furloughs that led to those widespread delays this week. The Senate voted last night to erase about $200 million in cuts to the Federal Aviation Administration. The House is set to move quickly on the measure. The FAA said it had to furlough those controllers because of the automatic budget cuts called the sequester. Those cuts started after the White House and Congress could not reach a budget deal earlier this year. House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi says she would rather cancel all $85 billion of those budget cuts. Democrats in Congress say they are not seeking now any exemptions from Obamacare. That statement comes after reports that leaders from both parties were trying to create an exemption for members of Congress and their staff members from a key requirement of the law, one that would require them to buy health care through insurance exchanges. That would cost them thousands of dollars. Republicans blasted Democrats, though, for trying to get out from under a law they passed. But TheHill.com reports Democratic leaders say they do not want an exemption and will not support one if it is proposed. The Family Research Council has released video of that domestic terror attack that took place in their building last August. Here you can see in this video the building manager, Leo Johnson, wrestling Floyd Corkins to the ground and taking his gun away. That was after Corkins was shot in the arm, or shot Johnson rather in the arm. Corkins entered the building with 100 rounds of ammunition. He later confessed that he planned to kill as many people as possible at the conservative lobby group. During an FBI interrogation, Corkins explained why he chose the Family Research Council.
The Southern Poverty Law lists anti-gay groups, and I found them online. Okay. A little bit of research on their website and stuff like that. Okay.
Corkins was convicted of domestic terrorism. The Southern Poverty Law Center has not removed the Family Research Council as a hate group from its target map. Well, more threats from North Korea. Its military leaders saying they will respond with nuclear weapons if their country is threatened. The talk of war in recent weeks comes as no surprise to one North Korean defector, a man who has seen firsthand what it's like to be a Christian in the communist North. George Thomas has this exclusive story from Seoul, South Korea.
Mr. Bae says the headlines blaring North Korea's threats to attack America and South Korea are very familiar to him.
From my early childhood days, preschool days, I was taught that my number one enemy was the United States.
CBN News is taking precautions to protect Bae's identity. He was born in North Korea.
We lived in constant state of war. 2 or 3 times a year, the government announced it was going to attack our enemies.
Bae is reportedly one of a few third-generation North Korean Christians known to have defected to South Korea. His life as a secret believer inside the reclusive communist nation is detailed in the book, These Are the Generations.
Your life is marked with risk the moment you decide to accept Jesus Christ as a savior. That's the price you pay for being a member of the underground church.
A price that he and his family have paid. Bae was arrested without charge for more than a year on suspicion of Christian activity.
My entire family, including my children and parents, were always evangelizing. Of course, we did this in secret and we had to be careful, but the authorities became suspicious.
He was eventually released from prison without being charged. Bae says that was a miracle, but others weren't that fortunate. Several members of his family, including his mother and brothers, are in a North Korean concentration camp because of their own evangelistic activity.
They were sent to a concentration camp because the authorities found a Bible and several evangelistic pamphlets in the house.
Some 200,000 prisoners are being held in political prison camps in North Korea. An estimated 30,000 of them are Christians. Bae now works to see his country won for Christ. He advises Eric Foley, an American who's living in Seoul and helping train defectors to effectively share the gospel.
80% of North Korean defectors are in regular contact with family members still inside North Korea. That means that the front line of North Korean ministry isn't on the border with China, it's right here in Seoul.
In a nondescript building not too far from Seoul's city center, Foley holds regular evangelistic classes for North Koreans who've defected to South Korea. He considers these men and women highly strategic for reaching North Koreans around the world with the gospel.
North Korea maintains large contracts with Russia, Mongolia, and China, where workers are sent abroad for from 1 to 10 years. So North Korean defectors actually can reach their family members not only by going back inside North Korea, but even by going to China, Russia, Mongolia, Southeast Asia.
Bae and Foley say the best way to pray for North Korea during these tense times is to remember the underground believers who work quietly in the shadows.
They are the faithful ones who endure so much to share Jesus. Please pray that God will give them strength and more boldness.
And what is most impressive is that that work doesn't change. Even in the last month when Kim Jong-un rattles his saber, the North Korean church is still focused on being faithful and propagating the gospel.
George Thomas, CBN News, Seoul, South Korea.
CBN Disaster Relief is helping the victims of a recent deadly earthquake in China. The quake killed nearly 200 people and injured thousands in the Sichuan province. CBN Disaster Relief is responding with free medical service and relief aid. Teams are giving out rice, cooking oil, and soup mix, along with soap, toiletry items, and clothes. And medical professionals are providing free examinations as well as treatment. The ministry is serving close to 140 families in that region. Gordon?
When disasters strike, we want to strike back, and we want to show people that we love them. And if you'd like to help with that, we invite you now to give to CBN Disaster Relief. There's an address where you can write to, CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463, or you can just call us and say, I want to help people in need. And if you want to designate to that China earthquake, you can. Just call us, 1-800-759-0700, or you can log on to cbn.com. There's a place on the giving page where you can designate your gift to disaster relief.
The Senate has moved closer to passing a bill to tax purchases made over the internet. But a final vote will not come until early May when senators return from vacation. The president supports the bill, but it's likely to face a tough battle in the House. Some Republicans there consider the measure a tax increase. Operation Blessing is helping women across Latin America start their own businesses. A woman named Glindy was left a widow after an earthquake struck her town in Guatemala recently. Her house was destroyed and she had no way to provide for her family. Operation Blessing, though, brought Glindy a corn mill so that she could work and earn enough money to take care of her children and send them to school. OB teams also helped Glindy rebuild her home and provided her family with food, clothing, beds, blankets, and an emergency kit. You can find out more about Operation Blessing by going to its website at ob.org.